Hey guys, it's Vinny again, and welcome back to my currently kind of dormant container garden. It kind of died off for the winter, but since it's January, we're going to talk about what plants, what seeds you should be sowing now for growing through the cold winter months, and some of the seeds you shouldn't be planting this time of year if you want to start a garden. So let's get into it.
greensmachines.com.
I'm going to say I live in Zone 9B, which means I barely get any frost. The danger of frost in my area is practically nothing. Depending on where you live, though, you may need to have a cold frame or start your seeds indoors, because otherwise you'll have frosty evenings and they'll kill your seedlings. You kind of don't want that to happen. So here's a collection of plants I like growing in the winter months, and I'll show you some seed packets and talk about a few varieties I like growing this time of year. All right, so let's talk about some of the plants I like growing in January, or planting in January. Up first we have bok choy and Chinese cabbage. Both these do really well in the cold, at least in my climate area. They tend to bolt really quick in the heat, so that's why in January they are great for planting early. If you're going to plant these though, right now make sure you're putting them in an area with a lot of sunlight, otherwise they may fail to develop or grow big. And especially since the day length is very short during the season, you have to be very careful where you plant them. Moving on to another great cold hardy vegetable that you can grow all year, kale. Red Russian's a great variety, Siberian's a good variety. They're great for baby greens, and they pretty much are going to last any cold temperatures, even if it frosts. It's a little windy out here, bear with me. And we have beets for being a root vegetable. They kind of take a long time to grow the taproot, so starting them now is not a bad idea. If you have some loose soil, it's perfect to toss them in now. And like I said, for the Chinese cabbage and bok choy, put them in an area with a lot of sunlight, otherwise they're not going to grow fast. Similar to beets, we have Swiss chard, the one vegetable that grows well pretty much any season. I like this variety of bright lights, mixed colors. Fort Hook Giant's great too. I think there's one called El Dorado, which is just the yellow ones. But you can pretty much neglect them, they'll always grow leaves. I've got some seeds I saved from some Swiss chard I grew last year. I'll show you those in a moment. But they kind of fell off the plant onto the ground, and they just kind of took off and started growing already. Like there's some pretty good developed ones. So here we come over here and we can see all the Swiss chard seeds that started germinating below the pot. I should put a pic up in a few seconds so you can see how big and how many seeds came off this plant that was like in this blue bucket here. And you can also see here I've got a few Swiss chard that have germinated. Oh, there got some seed packets. And I got some, I forgot what I threw in here. Probably some Chinese cabbage, maybe kale. They've all germinated. I planted them a few weeks ago, or maybe a few days ago. Yeah, if this camera is a good zooming. You can see all the Swiss chard, and I could just rip them out for microgreens or maybe even try to transplant them later. All right, next plant we got arugula. Arugula is especially good in the cold because this bolts really quick, so you can get some nice smaller leaves before that happens when it gets warmer after March. This germinates pretty much any time of the year, so a great crop, especially if you like spicy leaves. One last one to try. I don't know if this one will do too well, but cilantro, planting it in January. Much like arugula, cilantro bolts really fast, especially in the summer heat. But, you know, sow some cilantro now and maybe it'll germinate and maybe you'll get some nice cilantro for your dishes. So here's some others that may do well. I actually have one more to talk about. Peas, I don't have a packet for them right now because I ran out of peas, but peas do really well in the winter. But if you plant them, you're going to have to trellis them. So use some like sticks and twine and you have peas like that. It's pretty simple. Some others that I would wait a few months, radishes and carrots. I know they're both root vegetables like beets, but with these two, I think they need a lot more sunlight. Otherwise your taproot's not going to grow anytime soon. Radishes, if you plant them now, they're going to take a lot longer than your 30 days to grow. I'd also extend this to turnips too. I've never grown turnips, but I would imagine they would do well this time of year also. And lettuce, Lettuce does like the cold, but I would think you would need to either start these seeds indoors or start them in a cold frame, just given that it will frost at this time of year or potentially frost. So those are my comments on lettuce. There are some vegetables I definitely would not plant this time of the year because it's way too cold in January. That'd be tomatoes, basil, peppers, cucumbers, stuff like that. I mean, I'll show you why in a sec. I mean, for some reason my tomato actually wants to thrive, but it's not gonna thrive at this time of year. So if you are gonna start growing those, ideally, you wanna start them indoors. If you start them indoors, then you can transplant them out in March. And March is a good season for growing tomatoes, peppers, any of that. Because there's no frost, nothing will stunt the growth, and you have great sunlight like you can see on my face. So those are the vegetables I like sowing in January so I can have leafy greens through February and March. I hope you found this video informative, and if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Greens and Machines, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next video.